So, the game changer in modern European history is one. You must write on 4 booklets. That is the first rule. The second rule says 4 booklets and above. The second rule says never forget the first what? The first rule. I can tell you we are meaning it. You must write on so many what? Papers. Now, we need to know North Atlantic Treaty Organization, where we are saying NATO was formed by the capitalist countries with a great agenda of protecting the capitalist countries against the communists, where I can say if the communists attacked the capitalists had to use NATO to protect the capitalists against the communists altogether. So we are saying NATO was a military alliance of states from Western Europe and North America. It was set up by the North Atlantic Treaty of 1949, signed by countries which included Britain, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Italy, Portugal, USA, and Canada. It aimed at protecting the member states against aggression, promoting cooperation between member states, and maintaining peace and security. That's what's all about NATO. So the message is, I emphasize, I call it the Kasoma Farouk of Uganda philosophy. No one is coming. No one is what? Coming. The government is busy. Your family is busy. Even your friends are what? Busy. So it's upon you to liberate yourself. So we need to understand the achievements of NATO. After understanding that it aimed at the promotion of peace, the hard question is, did it achieve? Number one, NATO maintained relative peace and stability in Europe. How? In the way that when NATO was formed by the capitalists to protect the capitalists against the communists, this led to the relative peace. Why? Because the communists feared to attack the capitalists. Since if you attacked one capitalist, NATO forces could rise up and attack you altogether. And this led to the relative what? Peace. Not total peace, but relative what? Peace. Another one, it created a military balance of power in the world, where we are realizing as the NATO was formed to protect the capitalists, by this time the communists also later formed the Warsaw Pact. And this created a military balance where the communists feared to attack the capitalists, and the capitalists were safeguarding their capitalist what? Countries. And this led to military balance. Another one, it protected the independence and territorial integrity of member states, such as West Germany. You remember after the Second World War, Germany was divided into 2. East Germany and West Germany. So people from East Germany wanted to attack West Germany. Mind you, East Germany had the communists. But of course, NATO forces had to protect the integrity of states, such as West Germany. And by this time, we are saying NATO achieved. Another one, we are saying it contained Russian communism, imperialism, and aggression. We are saying today, Russia had a great agenda of promoting communism in the world. You remember communism was advanced by a man called Karl Marx, and capitalism by Adam Smith. But we are realizing the communists had a great agenda of promoting communism in the whole of Europe and possibly the whole world. But through NATO, Russian communism was contained because NATO forces were not like allowing communism to spread in where? In Europe. Mind you, communism was about communal sharing. All resources belong to the government, and the government had to look after what? People. Then in capitalism, there was a private ownership of property. Another one, it promoted diplomatic relations and cooperation, especially between member states. Member states were not supposed to attack one another. They were supposed to solve their issues peacefully without what? Fighting. So we are glorifying NATO. Another one, it promoted democratic governance and respect of fundamental human rights. We are saying today, democratic governance and respect of human rights was what? Was promoted. In this kind of arrangement, the NATO members were encouraged to attach to democracy. And by this time, we are saying democracy was promoted. Then it prevented a nuclear war between US and USSR. At one time, USA wanted to attack USSR, even USSR to attack what? USA. But by this time it prevented a nuclear war, because as the NATO forces were there, the communists feared to produce dangerous nuclears because they feared to be attacked by NATO what? Forces. And this prevented a nuclear war. Then we are saying it settled the conflicts which threatened peace, for instance, between Iceland and Norway in 1959. All countries that were conflicting, NATO forces had to come in to mediate between the different forces. And by this time, NATO settled the conflicts. Then, of course, it settled the conflict between North and South Korea. By 1953, the conflict between North and South Korea was solved. That's why today those countries are different. South Korea and what? North Korea. Then we are saying NATO supported the peace efforts and actions of UNO. Where we are saying today, the peace efforts of UNO were supported by NATO. Since the NATO forces were strong, this led to peace because UN was supported by NATO forces. Then it established a permanent standby defense force. That is the supreme headquarters of Allied powers in 1950. A permanent standby defense force, that is the supreme headquarters of Allied powers in 1950, was formed. This meant by this time that peace had to be promoted. In other words, this permanent standby force was meant to crush all of those that wanted to rise up against the communists. Another one, it promoted scientific and technological advancement. We are saying today, scientific and technological advancement, because the NATO forces were competing with the communists. So what they did, by this time, they made great developments in innovations. The game was, they wanted to overpower the what? The communists. So changes rising up. Then it promoted economic development of member states, which increased the trade. Economic development of member states were promoted how? Through NATO. NATO, though it was a military wing, but as peace was created in the member states, this led to the development of what? Trade. Because people were not fearing that a war was going to rise up. And this led to relative what? Peace. So friends, we are saying NATO tried to achieve. NATO tried to do what? To achieve. So in this kind of arrangement, you need to honor the role played by NATO in the promotion of peace.